What's up, everybody? Welcome to From the Logo. Colton was just mentioning how he's going to be moving to Orlando soon and become a Magic fan. Is that right?
Wrong. That's wrong. That is
What I
wrong.
heard.
Actually, what we were
I
gonna
think I just heard you say that right before we came on.
how this discussion started was because the Miami Heat, who I predicted would win not only the previous series against the Celtics, but the NBA Finals, stole a game on the road in Denver, much to the shock of everybody else. Because I've been saying keep doubting the Heat at your own peril.
But
And
you
then I
can't
said,
afford to. But you can't afford to move to Miami,
but
so
I
you're
can't
gonna
afford
go
to
to
move into Miami, so I'm
you're
going
gonna
to
go to
move
the
to
Target
Orlando,
version
and
of Miami and become a
I'll,
Magic fan.
I'll be a fan of the little brother team. That's okay.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad the finals is a series. At least I was worried that honestly, the last series I was there for that too. I'm glad that the Celtics prolonged their suffering for 3 games because otherwise we wouldn't have got any basketball for a week. And instead, we got good games all the way up until the finals. And yeah, now hopefully they'll be able to give us at least 6, maybe 7. That'd be awesome if we got a game 7 in the NBA Finals. I'd take that all day, all day.
Yeah. I mean, stealing one on the road, switching home court advantage, that's nothing to scoff at. Miami's freaking hard to beat in Miami. And now Denver has to do it to win the finals. I still think Denver is really a juggernaut, but man, Miami put doubt in everyone's mind for sure.
Bro, Jimmy Neutron has been balling out. He was like the reason they won game 2 in a lot of ways. That 10-point run he had at the beginning of the fourth, and Pudgy Lowry too, freaking balling out at 37 years old.
Role players in general, Max Struess too. He got him off to a great start early in the game, like four
After a
threes in the
terrible game
quarter or
one.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, it just shows Spolstra is just so high head and shoulders above all the other coaches right now. He runs circles around him. His adjustments to make Jokic a scorer rather than a passer, that was huge. Jokic only had 4 assists that game, right? Jokic puts up a triple double almost every game, but this game he was looking to score, which he did very effectively, and he was a big problem. But you look at his teammates around his team, Michael Porter Jr., dud, Contavious Caldwell Pope, dud, and he fouled 2 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that Spolstra played mind games and it worked.
Did you see his scathing response to the reporter when she asked him like if it's part of their game plan to make him a scorer rather than a passer? He was like, that is such a simple way of viewing it. He called her a casual in about the most kind way I've ever seen. But he definitely went after her. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I don't understand that because that's exactly what it is, just simplifying it, whatever.
Spolstradamus. He was probably pissed because she was giving up the game plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We posted a poll 6 days ago. I got 20 votes. What should the Blazers do with the number 3 pick? 40% say keep the pick. 30% said trade for Jaylen Brown. 25% said trade for Mikal Bridges. 5% wanted to send it up north, we the north, for Pascal Siakam. Last video, we obviously talked about that, what we would do out of those 4 options. That was kind of a question that Colton posed to us. And the more I've thought about it, the more the week has progressed. Long time from the logo viewer, Drop Camp 16 made a great point where he showed the last 10 or so number 3 picks and how good they really are. And it's really just solidified for me that I think it's the Blazers should keep the pick. I think they should, at least in relation to all of these guys. I don't want to trade that. I don't want them to trade that pick unless it's for like a top 15 player, someone that's really going to make the Trailblazers a championship contender. And those 3 guys just are not going to do it. So I would like to see, Scoot or Miller in that spot for the number 3 pick. I'd like to see them on the Blazers next year.
I have a fun statistic for you. It's kind of stealing the Riley neat stat of the day.
Riley's stat of the night.
Yeah. So since 1989, okay, all the way up to 2020, 56% of the third overall picks from 1989 to 2020 have been an all-star. So over a 50% chance if you're picking at number 3 overall to draft an all-star. That's the kind of player, that's the kind of chances you're giving away. That doesn't mean they can't be a bust. But the top 3, and actually pick number 3 has a higher hit rate than pick number 2, which isn't the same in every draft. But my point being, that's a great asset and player that you're most likely drafting at 3. Historically, having an over 50% chance to get an all-star, drafts are hard. Drafts are a crapshoot. So don't trade that pick away for just any player. That player's got to really elevate the ceiling of the Blazers.
I also feel a little bit, and this is just kind of reading in between the lines, but just based on what Dame's been saying this offseason and his Instagrams and, what he's been saying to reporters, I think he's a little bit more open than maybe he sounded at the end of last season to the idea of bringing in another young guy. It feels like he's in for whatever the Blazers want to do, as long as they make the right decision. To me, that's what it looks like. I think he might be a little bit excited at the idea of getting to play with Scooter, Brandon Miller, in addition to Sharp. And I don't know if that's just a little bit of a mindset shift or if I'm just kind of reading into it a little too much, but I don't think he has his bags packed to get out of here unless we really screw up. And I kind of just want to see him try to build a team around Dame. And I don't care if they're young. You guys know that about me. I don't think that that's a problem.
He was
That's
at the
Boston
Thompson
fans.
Twins workout and Scoot's workout. Watching
Exactly. Yep. That was one of the places where I saw it. He looked like he was stoked at the idea of playing with Scoot, which that's the one most of all that I thought maybe he would see as writing on the wall for him getting out of there. I think he kind of wants to play with him.
That's not what Boston fans want to hear. They want to trade Jaylen Brown straight across for Damian Lillard. They'd be very happy with that trade. So let's say that the 1, 2, and 3 positions are filled next year. We start the season with Lillard, Sharp, and Miller, or I guess Scoot might fit in there too, in some form or fashion. Dame, Scoot, and Shaden in those first 3 spots, and then you probably have Jeremy Grant, I guess, at the 4. So what do we do at center? Because, Nurkic, I don't hate the guy. I mean, he has great chemistry with Damian Lillard. He's a cool dude for sure, but he just doesn't play the games. Like, if you look the last, since he's been on the Blazers, he's just never there when it matters. And it's pretty obvious, in my opinion, that we got to get off of, relying on Nurkic as our starting center. It seems like we probably have to make a move. And the odd man out of what I just mentioned from the 4, the one guy that wasn't in the starting lineup out of the 4, Anthony Simons. So it seems to me the most obvious move is to try to trade Anthony Simons, package him up, or maybe trade him just straight across for, a center who's going to play the games, a solid starter. What do you guys, we'll bring up the trade machine.
Before we do the trade machine, here's another stat. I dropped this stat a couple videos ago, but I want to say it again. For everybody, all the Blazer fans who say, Nurkic is good, Nurkic is fine. I get that. And Nurkic is fine sometimes, but Nurkic has never been healthy for a playoff series win. Never in 6 years since he's been traded here. When are we going to stop trying to hope he's healthy? And then when he is healthy, he's either on one leg or gets, schooled by Jokic, which everybody does, but he's not some Jokic stopper when he's in there. So if he's not healthy for a single playoff series win in 6 years, we got to move on. It's time. 6 years is a long time when you're not a star like Dame or something. It's time. So we got to move on from Nurkic, and we should dive into the trade machine, in my opinion.
Looking at a couple of just rankings, kind of informal rankings from around the sporting world, it seems like everyone puts Nurkic right around 20th best center, starting center in the NBA, which I think is pretty fair. So, some of them have him at like 18, some of them at like 21, kind of that range. So really, to move up from Nurkic, we're looking at getting a top 20 center, top 15 center, really. And not a lot of them are available. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he's better than that. Sometimes he's like a top 10 center. Sometimes he's worse than that. Sometimes he gets a quick foul and then plays very, in his own head, and he's not even a starting center. So we need somebody who's consistent. And
someone who plays the games. Honestly, that's the difference. Like Nurk might be a top 20 center, but he's just never there when it matters the most. Like Colton mentioned with the, not having been in a playoff series that we've won. So
that says it all. What else do
you bring up the old trade machine?
Oh yeah. Okay. So now you preface this by saying, what if we just draft at 3? Well, we're going to do something on this one that might be unpopular to some people. I don't even really like it. This is just an idea I had to kind of get a more consistent, healthy center, and you'll see what I'm saying. So here is the trade. So we'd be trading with the Magic, and we would be trading back. So already, I'm a big proponent of just take the best guy available. But in this trade, we, in my opinion, upgrade. We get Wendell Carter Jr., young, healthy, good defender, plays the games, right? He would fit the young core with Shaedon. I think he's a great fit for the Blazers and an athletic center. So I think he's exactly what the Blazers want. The Blazers in this trade would be getting off of Nurkic's contract and saving money, okay? So that's all kind of wins so far. We would be trading out of pick number 3, and that sucks, right? But we're acquiring, like I said, Wendell Carter, and then we would get the 6th overall pick and the 11th overall pick. So you are trading down. And why would the Magic do this? Well, the Magic need an established guard. If Scoot's there, which I don't want to trade Scoot away, but if Scoot is there and we're really needing an athletic center and everything, this is an idea I have. So at pick 6, I would say keep pick 6. So you'd just be trading away 3 spots back. You could maybe pick up a Thompson twin that, not Amen, but I don't know how to pronounce his name.
The other one. not
spare.
Yeah. Yes. So you could pick him up. You could pick up Cam Whitmore. He's another young, explosive athlete that is a wing. And you could maybe pick up another one of the wings, either Jarris Walker or Taylor Hendricks. There's a lot of forwards in there that you could still draft, that you could slot into the rotation right away. Pick number 11. So you'd still have another lottery pick to play around with. And what I would do with that is a follow-up trade. I'm scared to even put the follow-up trade on there because we've got circling Raptors fans in our videos, but I'm going to.
Stay above the fray, Colton.
I would trade, and the picks aren't on here because it's a separate trade, but there is picks as well. I would trade Ant, right, for OG, the other Joe's just salary, okay? Ant for OG, and then I would trade pick number 11 to the Raptors as well, and pick 23, okay? So Raptors, who are really high on their own guys, that's what they get. They get a lottery pick for a guy who's expiring, and pick 23, and Ant, who has potential, which I think this is a little bit expensive for the Blazers. But then you look at the lineup. You got Dame, Shaedon, OG, Grant, Wendell Carter Jr., and you drafted at 6 overall. Your starting lineup set. You've got Thibault off the bench, who's a defender, or you could start Thibault and have Sharp be like the Harden and OKC sub, and you have the 6th overall pick. So you still get a really high draft pick. You solidified your wing spot, your center spot, and now you've got some free agents to sign at like guard and center depth. So that's kind of my idea with that move, and it's kind of a multi-piece thing, but I honestly think all of it is pretty realistic. And Raptors are getting a lottery pick and a young talent and another pick, which is a little expensive for me, but that would solidify the starting lineup, and that's what I got. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Anunoby and Carter Jr. It's a pretty good haul. I mean, that's
And pick six.
two young starters that you're getting for trading down, from pick 3. It's after when I saw the first part of your trade, I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. The second part really clears it up, I think. But I mean, I wouldn't hate the move, but I still don't think I would probably do it. I think that the top end potential for the number 3 pick is just higher than you're gonna get for anything that you get in return for it. But I get where you're coming from. I get the move. It feels like a little bit of like what the Blazers could do. The kind of moves that we're used to seeing from them, where they kind of go middle of the road, not really go for the high end move or the blow it up move. It would probably, put a more competitive team on the floor next year. But I don't think it'd be a team that would probably have championship potential within the next couple of years. So, yeah, it'd be tough for me to make the move to trade out of that number 3 spot, especially, it's funny. Like I think I go back and forth between who I'd rather want between Scoot and Miller. I almost feel like if Scoot's available at number 3, it's harder to trade that pick. It's like
I know it's worth more.
Yeah, he's just got such a high ceiling. It really feels like he's gonna be a huge star, and to trade him, it's like, are we trading Michael Jordan again here? So yeah, like I said earlier, I don't think I'm trading the number 3 pick personally, unless it's for like a top 10 or 15 player in the league.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because, and I've kind of brought this up before, but I almost feel like you have to, and this probably is what would happen on draft night, see who the number 3 pick is before you can make any of these trades, which is it's an interesting spot. For one thing, different teams are going to have different interests. I mean, if Scoot goes number 2, Brandon Miller is not going to be worth as much to some teams as Scoot would, right? And so you might be able to get a lot more if you do luck into getting Scoot, but then you have to make the decision of whether to trade him or not. So yeah, either way, it's a tough one. But yeah, I don't think I would do that trade either, just because I think that number 3, I'm kind of excited at the idea of seeing the number 3 play with Dame and Shaedon at this point. I'm almost a little bit attached to it. So yeah, I don't really want to trade it except for one of Kirby's top 4 or 5. So yeah, but I definitely get it. I get that move. It would be cool. It would be a solid lineup. It would be a playoff team.
Again, that's not my favorite move or idea. That's more of like how do we upgrade at center? How do we finish the starting lineup? How do we get more defense? That kind of accomplishes all those things and still allows us to get a good lottery player, But I agree with what you guys are saying. That's kind of tough to trade away such high top end talent. So,
Riley, do you want to go ahead, or do you want me to present my trade?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, Colton, if you want to pull up that trade machine again, but
sure.
I think that it's kind of a high risk, high reward kind of a move, because it could not work potentially in the long run. But
before I pull it up, do you want any picks attached? Or do you just think straight up?
Let's talk about that once we pull it up. All right. Okay. But I think I've wanted for a long time to see what Dame and Cat can do. That's been a goal of mine for probably like 5 years, that I've thought that pair might be able to do a lot. And sure enough, when you put it into the trade machine, hey, maybe we could just swap them across. I don't think Minnesota's probably going for that unless things are even uglier in Minnesota than it looks like, which it looks pretty ugly already. But what do you guys think in terms of adding some assets to Anthony in order to try to make that happen? Because I think that it would probably be worth like our later first round pick.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple another piece.
More picks.
Yeah, other picks, just not number 3. Obviously, I'm not trading number 3 with Ant for that. I don't think that's worth it. But if Anthony, I think Anthony could fit in pretty well there, honestly, as like a bench guy. I know he's getting
Starter.
paid some, but he's not getting paid more than some other sixth men are. And so
He'd be a
anyway,
starter
I could
there.
see, yeah, and he could start. I could see him fitting in
100%.
there. So I think they might like him, especially if this double center thing isn't working, which it's not. To be clear, it is not working in Minnesota. So yeah, I'd like to see that happen.
So Timberwolves fans are going to say, heck no, okay, to this probably, you know, looking at it with no picks or anything, right?
Right.
I do think Cat's value is at a low, definitely. And more picks would need to be attached. I think Ant and in Minnesota, an Ant and Ant backcourt would be amazing. I think that they would fit really well together. Ant could just be a shooter to go along with Edwards' slashing ability. I need to start calling him something else because I'll just call
Ant
him
and Ant 2.
Yeah, Edwards and Ant.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Timberwolves fans, Anthony was Ant in the NBA before Anthony Edwards was, just so you know. So
Quantum
I think that they would fit amazing. And honestly, the Timberwolves need an upgrade at point. And you look at the numbers, just, you know, when Ant wasn't playing with Dame, he puts up good point guard numbers, but also it would just be a great fit for them. And I think Gobert is going to be the one that stays anyways. So they are going to look to trade Cat. The question for the Blazers, who are you putting around Cat to help the defensive side? Because obviously the pick and roll play between Dame and Cat would be elite, or pick and pop. The defense would still continue to be an issue. You know, you could try to outscore teams, but unless we were doing some crazy thing in free agency where we add Dame's buddy Draymond and then have a Draymond Cat front court, I don't know who else covers for the lack of defense from Cat. So it's tough. Also, shout out to Skyler, my buddy Skyler. He asked this question on our last video in the comment section. He said, "What do you guys think about trading for Cat?" Good question, Skyler.
This is what we think. So yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, with this trade, I mean, I would probably do it. I wouldn't attach much more than Simons in the 23rd pick for him. Cat, like you said, the defense is an issue. Blazers have been pretty offensively solid for years now, and it's obviously the defense where they struggle the most. So adding another kind of offensive-minded player, it's not exactly, ideal, not exactly what I would look for. But you can't say no to this trade. It would just balance out the roster so much. We clearly need to move on from Simons. He just doesn't fit, and we'd get a big out of it. So I think it's a win-win. For Minnesota, I do agree with you that could be one of the best landing spots for Simons. Him and Edwards, he'd probably be able to play point guard, be the, starting point guard for that team. And they probably would play together pretty well. And it would kind of allow Minnesota to get out from under this issue that I've kind of seen looming in Minnesota for a while, of a little bit of a clash in leadership between Towns and Edwards. Kind of seems like Edwards is, going to assume the role as the captain of that team. Right now, Towns is. And then it's kind of only a matter of time before he does. I don't really know if they'll be able to coexist through that transfer of leadership. So,
yeah. I mean, really quickly, the reason why I think Ant and Ant would fit together, Simons is that 6'3" guard with the shooting ability, and Edwards is the bigger, bulkier guy that goes to the rim, and he's a great defender. The problem that Portland has been Dame and Ant Simons do not defend well together. So people around the league might view Simons as a lower asset than what he really is, which is a slam dunk contest winner, volume 3-point shooter, like athletic shooter. And if you put Simons on a team that fits him better, you're going to see exactly what people are talking about when he has so much talent. It's the same thing as Minnesota. Minnesota has two centers that don't fit together, and you see that, and it wasn't going to work, but now we probably know it doesn't work that well, even though Cat was injured all year. trade two players that don't fit well together, but I know Timberwolves fans are going to look and say that's not nearly enough. But also, Cat's values at its lowest. I think you'd probably need 3 firsts like this to get Cat. And not the number 3 pick, because Cat is not worth the number 3 pick.
There's obviously more to this than just this headline, but you know how sports writers are and the media. This is going to be the headline, the takeaway, if and when Minnesota does move off Karl Anthony Towns, that they chose Rudy Gobert over Karl Anthony Towns for their their team. That's gonna be a big L for Minnesota, their GM, their management. I feel like it was obviously in hindsight not a bright move to bring in Gobert, and I don't know if they want to start.
Price.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what they gave up for him too definitely factors into that. So I guess we'll move on to my trade. Colton, go ahead and keep that trade machine up, clear it out for us.
All right. Are you gonna just speak it out to me, or what's your?
So
we're
going with the Trailblazers, Anthony Simons,
and don't even say the other team yet. Keep us
no.
suspense.
Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic.
Can't pull them up until you give me the team.
Okay, Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, here we go.
All right, so we're trading Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic to the Nets for Nick Claxton.
I like
I like that.
Does anyone have any guess who the second player is going to be?
If it's Ben Simmons, you're getting the boot off the podcast.
Am I getting too quick teed up? Am I getting thrown off?
Put Ben Simmons
on there.
Oh,
Put Ben Simmons on there.
Oh, that's disgusting. Is there picks? Because the Nets better be sending some picks our way to get rid of Ben Simmons' contract.
Yeah, I didn't really. So I just put this trade together like a few minutes before the podcast started. To be honest with you, up front, I want Poeltl. He's the guy that I want on Toronto, but he's a free agent, I guess, unrestricted free agent. So probably not going to happen. The idea mostly here is to get bigger and get a low maintenance big guy inside that plays the games and plays defense. And you get that with Nick Claxton. You get off of Nurkic and Simons, who I just want out of Portland at this point. Obviously, you don't want to give them up for nothing. And then Ben Simmons is I don't know if you can still say this about him, is the high risk player. I don't know if you can say anything else about him. I mostly threw him in there to make the salaries work, but I mean, it does make the team bigger. It makes, more defense. At least you're trading 2 offensive players for 2 defensive players pretty much. And the Blazers desperately need size and defense. So it does fit those criteria. But yeah, looking at I don't really know if this is the trade to make, but this type of trade where you get off of those 2 guys, you get defense and size back, and maybe a little bit of maybe a little bit of something could happen. You could get something that you're not expecting. Obviously, it's tough to go with Ben Simmons just because speaking of players who don't play the games, he doesn't play the games. But if he got healthy at the right time, the fit could be interesting for the Blazers.
Go ahead, Riley.
This is a trade that would have excited the heck out of me 6 years ago. The idea of putting Ben Simmons along with Damian Lillard. I mean, that should be, championship or bust. But yeah, I don't know that he's ever going to really play again at this point. So it's scary. But I do like the idea of getting rid of Anthony and Nurkic at the same time. So, this does it gets my wheels turning a little bit on the idea of maybe trying to turn my trade into a 3-team deal where we get rid of Nurkic too and bring in some defense along with Cat. But that's a different conversation. I definitely do like the idea of bringing in more defense. I guess I'd probably do it, honestly. I'd hope to maybe get some picks or something back along with that, but I don't know. I almost feel like we just get better just bringing in Claxton instead of Nurkic, and honestly, what are we going to lose by getting rid of Anthony other than just an asset, I guess? But he
An asset.
doesn't
That's what you're
fit.
gonna lose.
He
You
doesn't
said it.
fit.
Yeah, whatever else you could end up getting for him. Another guy that I thought of putting in this trade, but I actually thought that Brooklyn would want to do it, but I don't know, thinking maybe they would, is Joe Harris. He's not necessarily a defensive guy, you know, he's not bringing in defense, but honestly, the Blazers kind of needed spot up shooters last year too, which was weird to kind of notice that the need for spacers on the team and you know, corner three guys. So bringing in a guy like that or someone like that, I wouldn't scoff at that idea either.
I would.
I don't know if it.
I would scoff at Joe. Well, Joe Harris is on a 1 year deal. He's
Yeah, the
not.
problem with Simmons is he has 3 years, right? And he's making
I think
like
it's 2
37.
years. I think it's 2 years
Okay.
left. So I hate it, but here's the thing. I love Claxton. Claxton is a good player.
Yeah.
I get, and Ben Simmons, he has 2 years left on his deal, but here's the problem. His salary is sitting there. You can't really improve the roster because he's making almost $40 million. He has not showed that he even wants to play in the NBA since the Atlanta series when he passed up a dunk. When he does play, he puts up a triple single, as everybody says, triple single, and he wasn't even starting on the Nets when the Nets had nobody after they traded Durant, and he was coming off the bench because he was just either a shell mentally, or he didn't want to play, or he was rusty, or a combination of all three.
Hurt too. He had more back issues, didn't he?
Yeah, and back issues. I don't want to gamble on back issues. I mean, he's either got back issues or said he had back issues so he could get out of Philadelphia. And I'm not going to say he's faking an injury, but it's not pretty, like what he's done on the floor. So I don't want him on the team. I don't want his energy. I don't want his just aloofness, his negative. The Blazers do need defense, but not at the expense of the mentality that Ben Simmons brings. This is like the worst contract in the NBA. I mean, it has 2 years left, so it's not that. But as far as the value you're getting for a player right now, it's like the worst for the next 2 years. So I think they would need. I know Claxton's a valuable player, and in this case, Simons is, but I think Ben is just such a negative. It's crazy.
One thing I will say about the Blazers is they kind of have a tendency to bring in. I mean, I won't say they bring in players that have bad reputations necessarily, but they just have a really good team chemistry that starts with Dame. You know, he does a good job of keeping, even though they're not, necessarily winning, they stay together. There's not really any issues of, negative stuff going on outside of the court with the team. So there is the chance that you bring him in and, rehab the dude, bring him back to somewhat of a former shell of what he was, his first couple years in the league when he was pretty good. But yeah, I agree with you that it's probably too high risk to really actually do. I do like Claxton. If you could maybe convince Brooklyn to include someone else in the deal. I don't know. You are, getting off of 2 pretty big contracts to pick up another one. So yeah.
I mean, I think Simons is pretty fairly honestly paid. He's not overpaid in my opinion. I mean, he's making a lot, like in that regard, but players of his value, similar players like Maxey and Hero and stuff, they're all going to be making that or even more. Poole makes more and Poole's worse. So yeah, I just don't know. I don't like Ben Simmons.
I feel it.
I get that. I've been critical of Ben Simmons for probably longer than most, to be honest. Not to say like I was right, but I've been saying that I didn't really see him coming back for several years now.
You were the first one.
Yeah, now that's almost kind of a foregone conclusion that I think people would be more surprised if he came back and played a season at this point.
The real headline, I wish that this conversation wouldn't have been hijacked by Ben Simmons. And now in hindsight, I wish I wouldn't even include him in the trade, because really the main headline that I wanted to be taken away from this trade is to get off of Nurkic and Simons and just get a center who puts on his hard hat, isn't high maintenance, isn't offensively minded, just goes down there, rebounds, offensive rebounds, protects the rim, sets hard screens, plays the games, doesn't get hurt. That's really what I'm looking for with this trade, and any trade that the Blazers make involving Simons for a center, is to get a guy like that. That's why I like Pirtle so much, is he seems like he's just exactly that to a T, just very low maintenance, good around the hoop, good with both hands, sets screens, rebounds, does all that stuff. So that's really the thing that I want to see from the Blazers this offseason when it comes to trading Simons for a upgraded center.
To tie it all in a bow really quick, if you look at the Blazers lineup after that, it's not bad. I just Ben Simmons is such a negative, but you got Dame, Sharp, and if you draft Miller at 3, you can start Miller. If
Jeremy
Simmons is nothing, then you got Grant and Claxton. Between Sharp, Miller, and Claxton, that's a nice young squad. And then you just hope that Ben Simmons doesn't drag everything down. So I can see in that regard. But I just once I see that name on there, I tune out.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to our trade ideas and breakdown here on From the Logo. Comment down below which trade you like and what other trades you have, that we haven't thought of. I'm sure you guys have better ideas than us, even so. So thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
Bye.